Welcome into No Punt Intended, presented by Club Fantasy. I'm your host, Joe Zollo. It is our A Look Inside series. We're heading down to Houston, Texas. We are getting near the end of our Look Inside series as we head into the final playoff teams here, starting with Houston. 10-7 last year. Same coach, new offense. So it's going to be a little different look for CJ Stroud and company, who does have a couple, actually, not just a couple, a lot of new weapons to be throwing to, and even one old one in the backfield. Let's get into it. Welcome into No Punt Intended, presented by Club Fantasy. The three amigos talking the Texans.
Woo.
Oh, what a night, Frankie Valley. 10-7. D'Amico Ryan, same head coach. Been good so far as a head coach. Really can't say there's been many complaints. But new offense comes in. Nick Caley's the OC. He comes over from the Rams as the pass game coordinator under Sean McVay last year. So another Sean McVay product has entered the NFL as an offensive coordinator. Let's see. Okay. Let's see what happens.
At some point, that well has to dry up.
That's literally what Joe and I were talking about before we went on air on this, because it's, Liam Cohen's been good. Zach Robinson did great. Does Nick Caley break the streak, or does it just keep right on chugging because that system just works and it really doesn't matter who's calling the plays?
Well, I look at I think it is a lot on the person, because Bill Belichick has not had a single good disciple come out of his coaching.
I mean,
That
it's
was
100% true.
Flores is good. Flores is a good coordinator. I thought he was a decent head coach too in Miami, but I felt like that was a weird situation.
Yeah.
But he really, the greatest coach of all time, hasn't had a great disciple.
Now,
So
correct me if I'm wrong here. I'm blanking on the name. Cincinnati's head coach is of McVay, correct?
Zach Taylor, yes.
Yep.
Okay. This entire division, 3/4 of this division, are now going to be running McVay-esque offenses then. Because
Different divisions.
No. You have Cohen, you have Callahan in Tennessee, who is of Zach Taylor, and now you have the division.
I thought you were saying the Bengals were in the South.
Yeah, no. I knew where I was going with it. But long story short, does the Cohen offense, does the McVay offense start to fail when everyone in your division is running it and you know what you're looking for? So that'll be interesting.
I mean, it's fair. It is definitely fair to assume that. So
yeah.
I think we have to wait and see what Liam Cohen looks like as a head coach.
Yeah, you've been saying that since the day we recorded that episode a month and a half ago. So
because I don't have faith that man can be a head coach.
It doesn't seem well equipped for multiple duties.
No. Hey,
he is a very young defensive coordinator.
I will say to the end of time, Josh McDaniels, one of the best offensive coordinators of his time. One of the worst head coaches of his time as well, because he can't be a head coach, but he's one of the best offensive coordinators. So there's your prime example, still currently in the league. Okay. Moving into this projected starting offense. This is the ADP as of July 21st. I normally preface this by saying the ADP will change a little bit. I think we're pretty set in stone now, folks. It'll slide up and down here and there, and you'll have some people. Your home leagues always mess with you. Yeah. But for the most part, these ADPs, I would say.
Well, this next week will be interesting as the initial run of camp news starts. So
that's true. But for the most part, these guys are pretty much staying in place. And we use Underdog because they're best friends. And you can use promo code WOFF for a first time deposit free pick. I was about to say first time pick free deposit. That's not what it is.
I worked in banking for years. I thought you were about to say first time home buyer, and I was so confused.
THB.
Way to cut a promo.
Yeah.
I'm Holmeyer. Yeah, no, I was about to say first time pick free deposit, which was not accurate. So first time deposit free pick up to $1,000 in bonus cash. All right. And also be sure like and subscribe. We are over 1,400 now. And if we don't get to 1,500 by opening kickoff, Ryan's shaving the beard. So
on air.
Now that was volunteered.
On air. It's happening though. Quarterback 1, CJ Stroud. Quarterback 20.
Ooh, what a fall from grace for him from last year.
Yeah.
I would say, wasn't he like quarterback 7 or something last year being drafted? He was pretty high.
He creeped up really. At one point, he was like the dynasty QB, like one in the offseason.
For a month, like he was the dynasty QB 1.
Yeah. After, a solid rookie season, but it really wasn't even like a blown away like rookie season.
Yeah, Josh, I don't want to give you a ton of credit here, but I feel like you also kind of called that like we were overblowing that rookie season. So kudos to you, my friend.
We were, because
it wasn't anything that special.
Joe Mixon's the RB1 and RB19. The vet, the man, Nick Chubb, RB59, backing him up, and Woody Marks. Sure. RB80. Sure.
Joe and rookies. never a dull moment.
Who's Woody Marks? Where do you go to school?
USC.
Awesome. Great.
He's no Keontae Ingram, but
No, because Keontae Ingram's a freaking dog. All right. Keontae Ingram and James Prochet just haven't found the right offensive system yet. Okay.
Obviously.
James Prochet's still in the league because he's an incredible special teams player. So wide receiver 1, Nico Collins, is the wide receiver 6. Wide receiver 2 is Christian Kirk at wide receiver 58. Jaden Higgins behind him, but is ahead of him in ADP at wide receiver 52. And Jalen Knoll, the other rookie, wide receiver 75. And Dalton Schultz is the tight end 1, and he is tight end 27.
Talk about another fall from grace.
He's free, and he's gonna do something. Yeah,
it does seem with Schultz, we've probably gone too far. I don't think we're going to talk about him on this show because Joe yells at us when we talk about tight ends. But there are a number of tight ends out there, even to a lesser extent, like Cade Otton. It's like, okay, like they might do something, but like we've pushed them out of the points where like they're unplayable in fantasy football. It's strange.
Yeah. Well, Ryan, continue with your thoughts, expectations on the offense.
Yeah, it's interesting. You kind of hit it on the head where all the weapons are there. And I draw this parallel every time I'm doing my rankings. I don't know that I've ever drawn the parallel out loud before. CJ Stroud feels like Jordan Love to me. Like there just shouldn't be excuses. The offense is there. It's time for him to deliver. Whereas like Stroud was good as a rookie, not great last year. With all these weapons, there's no reason for mediocrity. He has a good running game behind him. He has an elite wide receiver. He has a sturdy tight end. He has running backs who can catch the ball. Now he has a great slot receiver, but he had a great slot receiver last year. Obviously, there's been injuries throughout for this team, and the loss of Tank Dell. I assume we're not going to see Tank Dell at all this season. It's with it being a defensive head coach, it's likely to be a boring offense again, which is going to make it boring for fantasy outside of Nico Collins and probably Joe Mixon.
Josh.
You and I have very different takes on this offense, Ryan, because this offense can be a lot of fun if it's done correctly. The same way that we saw Atlanta transformed last year with Zach Robinson as head coach, that is the blueprint for what you can expect for Houston if everything goes right. This is right out of the McVay system. You are going to see a lot of 11 personnel, which for those that don't know, 3 wide receivers, 1 running back, 1 tight end. The production for fantasy, you're looking at 2 wide receivers that are going to pop. The running back position is going to lean very heavy, likely to Mixon. And then you're going to see the tight end kind of sprinkled in there. Like we've seen some good Tyler Higbee out of that system, but we've also seen some really meh Tyler Higbee out of that system. That same thing can really be said for Dalton Schultz. And over the last couple of years with the Texans, he's really been hey, when everybody gets hurt, I'm the guy. I'm there. Just throw me the football. I'll get the boring stuff, right? And that's what makes him a streaming option. But when I'm looking at it from a fantasy perspective and looking what this offense did this offseason, They drafted not one, but 2 wide receivers out of Iowa State, Jaden Higgins, Jalen Noel. Both of them are very talented wide receivers. And when they've got the, top 3 round draft capital, expect them to come into play. Higgins really is like a carbon copy of Nico Collins. Yep. Big, tall, fast. Like, you put both those guys on the perimeter, this can be very dangerous for defenses. Noel is likely going to take over the slot role if and when Christian Kirk ever gets hurt. But the same way that we saw Darnell Mooney pop last year in Atlanta, that's the blueprint for Christian Kirk in 2025 if he stays healthy. Like, the wide receiver 1, expect 9+ targets this year. The wide receiver 2, 9+ targets per game, excuse me. Yep. Expect, 7+ per game for the wide receiver 2. The running back 1 should very easily see 10 or more touchdowns this year. Like, they just do not split the carries. Like, it's one guy taking the bulk of it. And that was even Joe Mixon last year in that Bobby Slowick system that was an extension of Shanahan. So, what this really boils down to for CJ Stroud, can he not take as many sacks? He had 52 sacks that he took last year. This offensive line was ravaged by injuries. And quite frankly, they absolutely sucked. So you know what they did to combat all of this? They traded their best one in Laramie Tunsil, which makes no freaking sense. But this system works when a quarterback gets rid of the football quickly. Matthew Stafford was tied for 36th, the 7th fastest time getting rid of the football. You know who had the 7th highest time throwing the football? CJ Stroud. He hangs on to the football too long. So that is going to be the piece that what will make or break this offense. Can CJ Stroud get rid of the football quickly and realize that he doesn't have to play Superman? Get it to his playmakers and let the offense develop.
I don't think that can happen. No,
he's definitely got the arm talent to make it happen.
As someone who played the sport, getting rid of the football quicker is not hard. Like, you just do it. But I mean, what he needs to be able to understand the offense more.
Well, it's understanding the offense, but it's also trusting your playmakers. And I think that's the biggest thing. And, when you're infusing an offense with not only a brand new scheme, but brand new playmakers, there's a level of trust that needs to be developed. And someone like CJ Stroud has a lot of athletic ability. And we see this so much with young quarterbacks. When they feel like instead of dumping it off and only getting 1 or 2 yards, they think that, if I tuck and run, or if I wait an extra split second, this guy's going to get open 10 more yards down the field. And those are the mental gymnastics that young quarterbacks play.
And then they get smacked.
Yep. Which leads to 52 sacks in a season.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I bring up, just because, again, Patriots fan, McDaniels was very good at beating it out of, again, he had Brady most of his career, but was really good at beating it out of his quarterbacks. If no one's open, your running back's open in the flat. Just drop it to him and he's going to get 5 yards. So, if Stroud can do that, then you're so pretty.
I don't mean to put you on the spot, but before we move on, you said you're more excited about this offense. Did that translate into your projections at all? Because when I look at this team, Nico Collins is a top 10 wide receiver for me. Nobody else is in the top 15 at their position.
Let me see. Where am I at? I have Stroud at QB 15. Joe Mixon currently stats out as my RB 19. That could very well change. I only gave him 9 rushing touchdowns, but again, I think that's less an impact from the scheme and more so the offensive line in front of him. Okay. But honestly, like, I downplayed Nico Collins in my projections, and I'll talk about that here a little bit more in a bit on where that I think that potential lies. But I have him at wide receiver 8. I have Dalton Schultz at tight end 18. Like, there's a ton of potential. I only gave this offense 25 touchdowns. But if you told me that CJ Stroud finished with 30, I wouldn't be shocked one bit.
Yeah. I just wonder, it sounds like we actually have pretty similar numbers, and we can talk more about that later. Where it's just like, I look at this, Nico Collins at his ADP we've talked about, and I don't want to step on anybody's thunder, but I'm not excited to draft him. And Joe loved when I used the my highest exposure Christian Kirk is the guy who in best ball I have the most of. I see the value in the slot role until you, like you said, Josh, until he gets hurt. So I don't know. I see every point you made on why this could be a good offense. It just did not translate to me.
Yeah, it just, for me, it depends on how quickly are the young guys. How quickly are Higgins and Noel going to take to this offense? How quickly is CJ Stroud going to build trust in them? Can Nick Chubb be reliable as a backup running back? Right? Yeah. Like Joe Mixon missed 3 games last year. Is he going to stay healthy at 29 years old when he has arguably, I think he's like top 3 in touches over the last 9 years in the NFL? That is a lot of tread on those tires.
Yep.
Yeah. Ryan loves exposing himself to Christian Kirk.
I do all the time.
Absolutely loves it. So much Christian has a restraining order on him.
Yes, he does.
But to the wide receiver one, as Ryan brought up, his ADP is wide receiver 6. Now, I don't know which side Josh is going to go here.
Yeah.
We are going to play the would you rather game, but it does feel aggressively high for Nico Collins to be the wide receiver 6, Josh.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, when I sat down and really started to look into the numbers, that was the case that I was going to make because, again, he comes in as my wide receiver 8. So I'm like, all right, I'm, quote, down on him from a consensus standpoint. And it's like, can he really make an impact greater than that? By the end of it, yes, he can. And I'll get to that. But remember how Drake London really took a big step up in this offense last year? The same scheme, just with a different play caller. That is really the logic that we need to apply to Nico Collins. But this is where it gets really interesting because when you look at the metrics, when you look at things like yards per reception, you look at target shares, you look at yards per route run, Nico Collins, even outside of this offense, blows Drake London out of the water when you're looking at all of this. 2 years ago, Nico Collins finished 2nd in the NFL in yards per route run at 3.1. Last year, he was 3rd at 2.85. Those 2 years, Drake London was at 1.87 and 2.32. That 2.32 was in this specific scheme. Nico averages 15, just the last 2 seasons, 15.56 yards per reception. And that was in that Bobby Slowick system, which is right out of the Kyle Shanahan system, which is built more on yards after the catch, low passing totals, and high efficiency. The last 2 years with Drake London, one of those was in Arthur Smith's system, which is very downfield threat, low passing volume. London was only at 12.88. These are very different types of athletes. So now let's look at what Drake London did last year and add the types of metrics that Nico Collins puts up. The high yards per route run, the higher catch percentage. Nico Collins the last 2 years has 71.1% catch rate. That is much higher than what Drake London has done. But the wide receiver 1 in this Rams play calling offense has seen over 9 targets per game. A full 17-game season, you're looking at over 153 game pace. If you match Nico Collins' career catch rate of 65.3 just to 153 targets, that comes out to 100 catches this season. If you take his last 2 years at 71.1, that's 109 catches. So now if you take what he's done in yards per receptions, career average 14.8 with 100 catches, 1,480 yards. You put that on 109 catches, he's at 1,693 yards at 15.56 yards per reception. He is a big, fast wide receiver. This is the type of wide receiver that has not truly been featured in this style of offense. So when I went through and I did my projections, I put him at 13.5, which that would be very low for Nico Collins.
Yeah.
If I were to bump that up just to 15 based on where I statted him out, he comes out as my wide receiver 2.
Jesus.
And I only gave him like 8 touchdowns. He only has 15 touchdowns the last 2 years.
What do you have his catch rate at?
68%.
Okay.
Which, I mean, again, given what he's done over his career the last 2 seasons, that's a very fair assessment. So, and that's not even with super high touchdown potential. It's this offense, this body of work. His biggest hurdle is health. He's never played more than 15 games in a season. Okay. And that's where the ADP comes into play. Like, that's why, for me, wide receiver 6 is fine. But you're looking at a guy that could, if fully healthy, he's a top 2, top 3 wide receiver in fantasy football.
Before you jump in, Josh, you kind of 8-miled me here because you said exactly what I was going to say, and that for me,
I got to lay out the whole point.
People often ask me, do I account for missed games? Mm-hmm. And for every position other than quarterback, I do not, because it's too hard. I'm not predicting injuries. But what I do is I look at the players' last 2 to 3 seasons, and I kind of figure out volume based on that. And if a player is constantly missing games, a la Nico Collins, there is injury baked into that. So for me, Josh, I have him at wide receiver 8, and it's a very similar situation. I have him slightly below you on catch rate. I have him slightly ahead of you on yards, but I don't have him above 150 targets, which is that alpha workload of over 150 targets, because I don't think he'll be on the field enough. And I think that's where the ADP kills.
That's probably, and that, again, I think the ADP sort of protects itself from that. Like, I put him at 149 targets.
I did.
Because again, like, I mean, you break that down, like 9+ targets per game for the wide receiver 1 in this system. That's a very attainable number. I mean, we've seen Puka Nacua get hurt and banged up all the time. He had 160 targets his rookie season in this system.
Yeah.
And he was competing with Cooper Kupp, of all people. Like, Nico Collins is built for this system, and he can take his game to the next level. It's just a matter of, can he stay healthy?
I need a nerd sound effect when Josh talks, because I think there was
actually
30 different numbers that were thrown at me in a matter of 4 minutes.
Yeah, when he was.
But I used the numbers that you like: yards per route run, yards per reception, catch rate. I didn't dive into, seconds of separation metrics and all these different types of things. So
you threw out too many numbers. It's not the fact
it's easier
that,
when you see it like on a graphic. I'm not going to,
No, it's not. It's still too many numbers. Nerds are ruining sports. Just the guy is good.
Says the 3 nerds talking about fantasy football.
No.
Right.
Eyes. I watch the game with my eyes, and I make the decisions with my eyes. My eyes tell me Nico Collins, good receiver. There's no doubt in my mind that guy is a good receiver. Your eyes can also tell you the dude misses games. You don't need stats to back that one up. He's not in the lineup that day. That's pretty easy to see.
Well, but again, the point that I'm really trying to get at is if you're taking Nico at wide receiver 6, there is great potential that he could end up finishing as a top 3 wide receiver this year. That's what I'm getting at.
That's crazy, because so to me, right, he's 6. You're not taking him over Chase, Jefferson, Lamb, Puka, or Neighbors. That's crazy. I don't think you're taking him over any of those guys.
I mean, I'm not.
Yeah.
But what I'm getting at is like, again, if he falls to you, you're in a good spot.
Falling
it's not
to
a bad
you is
thing
not,
saying
no. Falling to you is in
no,
the second
but
round.
Joe, you're the running back first guy, right? Like,
yes.
if you're staring down at, I don't know, Saquon Barkley, who's clearly going to regress from 2,000 yards, and Nico Collins, my argument is it's okay to ride with Nico over Saquon. That's kind of the point that I'm getting at.
Well, Saquon's top 5.
Derrick
Henry.
Maybe there's other people that think along the same wavelengths. Hey, he's not going to do 2,000 again. Maybe he does slide a little bit, right? I'm high on Devon Achane. Maybe he falls, and you're looking at Achane versus Nico. What's the difference? Like, that's the whole argument here, is that you're looking at someone who has the potential to be a top 3 versus someone that maybe is just a safe pick, right? And it's okay to chase that upside with someone like Nico. That's the
upside in the first
again
round.
The argument that I'm looking at.
If you want that upside, go get Tyreek Hill a full round later. If you want that upside, a guy who's done it. I'd say Amon-Ra St. Brown
have 1,000 yards last year in a full 17 game season.
Tyreek, he was hurt.
Same argument with Nico, and guess what? He still had 1,000 yards last year. Like that again. This is what I'm getting at.
A guy who smartly didn't play through injury, and a guy who idiotically played through injury.
There's that.
So there's that. But Amon-Ra, BTJ, if you want to think there's a sophomore slump, fine. I'm okay with that. I would still take BTJ. Drake London, AJ Brown. I'm a Lad McConkey stan, so I'm obviously taking Lad McConkey. Then you get into Tyreek Hill, T. Higgins, Marvin Harrison. Then there's no competition there. Maybe Garrett Wilson in the third round. That feels low.
Yeah,
but
I still don't know what's going on.
I don't know how he's that low.
Yeah.
But it just like that feels high for Nico Collins for a guy. Could he do what if he has the perfect, I mean, everything needs to go right for this guy. He's top 3.
I wonder.
Or he could be wide receiver 17.
Just gonna.
So could everybody that you listed.
100%. But everything needs to go
only
right.
Played 11 games last year.
Everything needs to go right for Nico to finish there. Things need to go minorly okay for Amon-Ra St. Brown to finish there.
If I cook him up to the top of his catch rate and top of his yards per catch, he still doesn't make my top 5, and that's because I over project people. So.
It's just I can't sit here and be like, yeah, that dude's finishing higher than CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah,
the last 2 years he's been top 8 in points per game. So like
I don't care. I don't care. He's not finishing higher than CeeDee Lamb. I don't care.
I say I'm with Joe on this one. It's just there's the names ahead of him
are too good. Nico Collins is a very good wide receiver. He's a very good wide receiver. He is not a top 6 wide receiver in this league. No chance. He is not even close. Especially with this bozo throwing him the football. That is not the case. There is no way. Nick Chubb. I'm very interested to know what we're going to talk about here.
I am just of the belief that we are pretending Nick Chubb has nothing, and there is nothing to support that. It has been a rough 2 seasons for Nick Chubb. Do not get me wrong. But Josh has kind of hit nails on the head here when it comes to Joe Mixon has touched the ball a lot in the last 3 years. And at some point, his body's going to break down. And at another point, if the Texans are smart, they're going to stop that from happening. And obviously, it's a very different dynamic. But if you go back 2 seasons ago to the 2023 season, under the same head coach, different offensive coordinator, obviously, this was an offense that split the carries 216 to 145 between their running backs, with one running back taking all of the passing work. This sounds exactly how the Texans should deploy these 2 guys, and that's exactly how I have them statted out. I have Mixon as the lead back, but I just think treating Nick Chubb like he is some weird afterthought because he's fought through injuries the last 2 seasons, it's a strange move for someone who we know when he plays is one of the best pure runners in league history. He's only 29 years old. There's no reason to think that he's like this 34-year-old guy trying to come back. And so the long and short of it is when I look at this ADP of RB 59, I'm actually right on with Mixon. I have him as 18. He's coming in at 19. But if you believe Mixon is only the RB 19 when he was like a top 10 running back last year, well, where is the rest of that work going? And it's clearly not going to Nick Chubb based on ADP. I think there's some value there. Chubb doesn't come in wild for me. He comes in as my RB 43, but that's still a lot higher than what he's being drafted in ADP. And I can't sit here and tell a story that a healthy Nick Chubb isn't a better runner than Joe Mixon. For years, this show, the Majooks, would tell you how Joe Mixon was the most average runner in the world. 4 yards per carry. It's what you're going to get. That same coin told us that Nick Chubb was one of the best runners in the league, continually over 5 yards per carry. Nick Chubb is not going to see the passing game work. He never has. But there is definitely a world where Nick Chubb handles a lot more work in this backfield and, more importantly, work inside of the 20-yard line. Then Nick Chubb becomes far more valuable in fantasy than we are currently drafting him at. I just don't know why we're pretending he's done. And at these prices, I'm willing to take a flyer on him.
To me, it's kind of similar with like Javonte Williams, right? Like Javonte Williams suffered the bad knee injury and the burst has just not been there, right?
Yeah.
Like he really is athletically a shell of himself. And when you look at the injury that Nick Chubb suffered coming back last year, he just looked toast last year. Like, he really did not look good. And I think that's the memory that people have in their heads when it comes to Nick Chubb. Like, I agree. Joe Mixon, very meh. Not anything special. But they're the ones that also gave Joe Mixon a 3-year contract. They only gave Nick Chubb a 1-year deal. Like, that's basically just like, come in, let's see what you got, if you can help. Their RB2 last year, the combination of the people they deployed was next to nothing, right?
It was like 70 total carries.
It's kind of similar to like the Minnesota situation, like where they go out and they say, you know what, we got less than 4 yards per carry from our RB2 and 3. Let's go get, Jordan Mason. So Jordan Mason comes in and he can handle whether it's a 1B workload with Aaron Jones, who set a career high in carries at age 30. And, we can take some weight off of him, right? Maybe that's the situation they're looking at with Nick Chubb. But when I look at this scheme tells you that the RB1 is going to carry the ball 60+% of the time. And there's not going to be near as much left on the table for the RB2. I only have Nick Chubb with 78 carries. Now, I'm not saying that can't change, but when I'm looking at drafts and he's available, I'm okay taking him where he's going. But even when I'm looking at who's above him, it doesn't excite me because I know the state of that offensive line.
The only thing I'll throw, and that's fair, and I was going to say, the couple of counterpoints I would make is, when we look at the scheme in its purest form, Sean McVay, it's definitely a lead back scheme. There's no denying that. But there is nuance to this scheme, which we saw over 130 carries for Tyler Algier. We saw, I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but I think it was 140 something carries for Rachaad White in Tampa Bay, and just different variations of this scheme. And then the one thing you like to see out of Chubb is he started off extremely slow. Do not get me wrong. And the high volume games were not pretty. The yards per carry are bad. But his last 2 games, he was over 4.4 yards per carry. And let's be clear, that was not a competing Browns team that he came on and played for last year. So I'm not going to hold all of last year against him, where now he's coming to a perceived playoff team. And again, Josh, you and I have said this for years. Backup running backs are supposed to be more efficient. For Nick Chubb, maybe he is at this point in his career 4.3, 4.4 yards per carry guy, but not handling the main workload might bump that back up to 4.5, 4.6, and it's a little bit more interesting for fantasy.
Yeah, I only have him at 4.2 in my projections. But that's again, right.
I get where you're coming from. And the carries, I even get where you're coming from, because as you brought up, the backups on this team only had 70 carries last year. I'm just wondering if there's maybe some nuance for a running back that has kind of established himself.
That's fair.
4.2 would be Joe Mixon's second highest career average yards per carry.
Yeah. It's crazy. Like 4.1, 4.39, 3.8, 3.7, like 4, like it's so bad.
He has finished
He's
over 4.1 once, 4.1 yards per carry once in his career, and it was his sophomore season.
He's just reliable. You know what you're getting from Joe Mixon.
And Nick Chubb has finished under 5 yards per carry once in his career, and it was last year, coming off a ripped apart kneecap.
Yeah, a second time destroyed right knee.
Nick Chubb's career yards per attempt.
He's Jamal Charles, man.
Is 5.1 yards per carry.
Yep.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That is on 1,340 rushes.
But, and I tell you what, though, like if something were to happen to Joe Mixon and he goes down, like it is literal wheels up for Nick Chubb. Like I would be so bought into him as a feature back in this.
Yeah,
system.
he's a name I will be keeping a strong eye on for camp reports on health. I think he is very interesting.
He'll probably be on my team, knowing how I take late running backs and things like that. 1,300 carries, career, 5.1 yards per attempt. Run that through your head real quick and think of how insane that is. Unbelievable. Training camp out of the watch is the wide receiver 2, Christian Kirk, Jaden Higgins, Jalen Noel. The 2 rookies against the vet coming off an injury and a down year. It's Kirk's job to lose. That is pretty much how it sets up to be right now. From what Josh is saying, Higgins is not going to be the competition to Christian Kirk. Kirk is going to run out of the slot. Higgins is not. He's probably going to be the opposite guy, opposite Nico Collins, unless they want a big slot, but that's probably not going to happen. And then Noel is the guy you really need to worry about with Kirk. Kirk is going to run as the 2. It's his job to lose. And then from there, you just kind of see where the targets disperse. If he does get hurt or he's, again, just not as good as he was pre-injury, that's what's going to happen with this wide receiver room. You're not going to know what's going to happen with this team probably for, 4 to 6 weeks.
I was going to say Kirk's leash is probably short with the investment they have in these young wide receivers.
Yeah,
so.
100%. But
very short. I mean, he's only played 20 games the last 2 seasons.
Kirk's a good player when he's healthy, when he's active. It's just he just needs to be on the field, and we'll see what happens. Also, obviously needs to pick up the offense. That's not an easy thing to do in a new scheme, but pick up the offense. So we'll see what happens. Best bets on the season. Josh, you have Nico Collins 1,500 plus receiving yards at plus 450 on DraftKings. Really going all in on this guy. And then CJ Stroud at over 30 passing touchdowns. That's plus 750 on DraftKings.
I felt like these were really good bets to pair together.
No, they're not. It's a good way to lose money.
In terms of like a $10 wager or something, like, because again, if one happens, the other is very likely to happen. And when you look at this scheme, how it develops, how it's maximized, both of these numbers are easily attainable. It just ultimately boils down to what CJ Stroud do we get? What offensive line for the Texans do we get? What Nico Collins do we get? Right? Not saying there's not risk, but I think when you pair these two together, it's a really good payoff for like a $10 bet if it hits.
If you want to parlay and lose $10, be my guest. That's what I say for most of Josh's bets anyway. Ryan, you have the Texans to win the AFC South. I mean, who else?
Well, I just think it's hilarious that me and Josh disagreed on this offense at the beginning, and then Josh finds 2 prop bets that he's really excited about. Josh, I looked for 10 minutes and could not find a bet and was like, I don't even want to do these best bets anymore. Like, I was down on the whole format. And I was like, I'm just going to pick the Texans to win the division.
And you know what? It's not wrong. Like, you're still early enough in camp to where, so many of the books just, they take the obvious players and, there's so much that can go wrong. So really, is there a best bet? Like, the Texans have won this division the last 2 years. It's not a strong division. That's a lot of young quarterbacks, young players, new coaches coming in. Like they're sort of like sitting there on top, like to get plus money on that. Yeah, it's not a big payoff. That's the thing.
No,
so
it's not. I try to. I've struggled with big payoffs that I've liked, but like I said, it's just our philosophy for this team has shown throughout the show where you have things that you're really excited about, and I'm like, just let's hope they win the division.
That's fair.
I give you a defensive side bet. The defense is solid. Like they just have a good all-around defense.
Yep.
Like really good pass rush, some really good linebackers in my opinion, and all around as a secondary, solid. They just have some like really bad games. But for the most part, Stingley solid, Kamari Lassiter solid, Jalen Petrie hot and cold. Bring in CJ Gardner-Johnson. He doesn't need to play the nickel. He can play the safety like he should be playing. So that's good. My issue is they don't make plays. Like they're just a defense. They don't make plays. So it's tough for me to give you a side bet. The only one I'd probably feel confident in would be a Danielle Hunter, because the guy just is timeless at this point.
I figured you were going to go with Hunter or Anderson. You were high on both of them last year, so
yeah, I would go Danielle Hunter over on his sacks. He just, for those that don't know, Danielle Hunter was the defensive lineman one for 3 straight seasons in Minnesota in fantasy football. The one. That was with J.J. Watt. That was with TJ. The one.
Yeah.
Danielle Hunter. And you never heard of him because he played for the freaking Minnesota Vikings. So, Danielle Hunter, very good defensive end. He's getting up there in age, but you can be up there in age at the defensive end position. It does not matter. Freaking Von Miller is still playing in this league right now.
Marcus Lawrence.
D-Law is just bad. He needs to stop.
Nah.
He's old, but he's also bad.
Seattle gave him a chance. So.
Might as well. That is it, folks. Next up, we are heading to LA for the Rams, because why not go from Nick Caley to Sean McVay? Why don't we, right? Not just because it's a perfect, marriage, but that's the next team we have to talk about, because that's the next team that got knocked out of the playoffs. So that's exactly how this is going to go. Any last words on the Texans, folks? Couldn't think of the word outside of marriage.
Yeah, it's all good. I have nothing.
No,
Great. I don't have high
everyone.
hopes for the Houston Texans, but there's a chance. There's
There is.
always a chance.
The defense will keep them.
There's that.
And that's really
I agree
what
with that.
Boils down to, especially early in the season while the offense kind of finds its legs.
I agree with that. The defense will keep them in play. All right, folks. For Josh, Ryan, myself, you can follow Club Fantasy on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Club Fantasy FFL. The URL, clubfantasyffl.com. Always remember, defense wins championships. Offense wins fantasy football. We will see you on the next